welcome to another episode of the podcast. So today it's going to be short. I'm aiming to do this quickly. I want to talk to you guys about the best at-home functional lab tests to run, because there's a lot of money being wasted and it really pees me off. And I want to save you money because functional health, it's not cheap. I get that. So let's try to save you money where we can. Let's be real. Let's be honest. Let's talk about which at-home lab tests you need to spend your money on and which ones you can do without. I have talked about this before, but I wanted to talk about it again because I think it's very important. I'm all about the truth. I'm all about honesty and helping you guys wherever I can. So my opinion on this hasn't changed yet. And I say yet because I am very open to changing my opinion on things. I try not to be completely concrete and black and white and religious in what I talk about when it comes to the functional health world, because things ebb and flow and change, and I'm constantly learning and the science is constantly evolving as well. But this is something that I have not changed for many years, and we shall see. So in my opinion, the best at-home functional testing you can do. So this is the type of testing that myself as a functional health practitioner send to my clients. So when my clients come to us, and we work with women all around the world. I'm in Sydney, Australia. My assistant, Kim, is in Canada. My team practitioner, Michelle, is in London, UK. We have women in Ireland, in Switzerland, in the UK, in America, in Canada, in New Zealand, in Australia. So we even have somebody in Mexico at the moment. So we work with ladies everywhere and we can send testing to you. And the type of testing that I always love to run with my ladies is HTMA. That's a hair test. You cut off a bit of your hair and it stands for hair tissue mineral analysis. And I love, 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 love that type of testing because it gives us an accurate reflection and a long-term look at your nutrients, particularly your minerals. But when you understand minerals, you can also get a gauge of which vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin C, B vitamins, vitamin E, might also be lacking for you. So it does give us the mineral picture, but from there we can assume some vitamins that are also necessary and needed for you as well. And it also looks at your heavy metals. And when we're talking a lot on this podcast, when I work with ladies, hormones are a big focus, right? Well, your hormones are not going to work properly in your body if your hormone receptors are gunked up. So if they have pollutants or heavy metals sitting in the hormone receptors, and your hormones also aren't going to work properly if you haven't got the nutrients required to make those hormone receptors work. So think of your hormone receptors as little catcher's mitts on a cell, and they sit there and they catch your hormone, whether it's the hormones that your body is making or it's the hormones that you're bringing in. If you're doing HRT and you're bringing them in. So the hormones that your body is making, they are called endogenous hormones. And then the other ones that you bring in are called exogenous. So it doesn't matter if we're talking endogenous or exogenous hormones, your little catcher's mitts, your little hormone receptors, they sit on the cells and they catch the hormone. And then if they're nice and healthy and vibrant and full of energy because they've got all their nutrients they need and they're not gunked up with pollutants and heavy metals, they will woof, throw the message of that hormone on. And it's the message of that hormone that gives us the clear thinking, the good mood, the optimal sleep, etc., etc. So you want your hormone receptors to be healthy. So we must optimize your nutrients, because those nutrients, zinc, iodine, B6, the list goes on. The nutrients required for optimal hormone receptor functioning are numerous. So you must run an HTMA and see what's going on with your minerals and your vitamins. And the heavy metals are also shown on that. And again, heavy metals and other pollutants can gunk up these receptors. That's just one reason I love this test and I recommend it. But you've got to understand that everything in the body runs on hormones. Nutrients. Everything in the body. So I want you to think about, you've got all these biochemical pathways in the body, right? Hundreds of thousands. I don't know how many we've got. Probably more than thousands. I don't know. But we've got all these biochemical pathways and they're ticking over, tick, tick, tick in the body. And they help us to survive, to be happy, to be healthy. What makes them tick? There's not a little mouse running on a treadmill in there. It's nutrients. And the nutrients come along and they plug in to this biochemical pathway, and it's like a little cog in a wheel, and that makes the wheel turn. But if you are deficient in a nutrient, that wheel's not going to turn very well, and it starts to get stuck, and the biochemical pathways don't run as well, and your genes don't function as well, and then you start to get disease, right? Symptoms first and then disease. So nutrients, I'm really trying to impress upon you, the importance of nutrients cannot be understated, because every single cell in your body relies and requires optimal imbalanced nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. So it doesn't matter what you're struggling with, truly. It does not matter what your symptoms are. You need to look at your nutrients, and you will never, ever, ever go wrong looking at your nutrients and optimizing your nutrients. Never. A lot of our ladies, so when we work with the HTMA test, we then create a custom multi-blend. So forget the multis at your supermarket, at Costco, even at the health food store. Forget them. You're wasting your money, because they're not tailored for you. They're not customized. When we work with our ladies, everything is customized. There's no cookie cutter. We don't just have one protocol for digestive health and one protocol for migraines. No way. We look at you as an individual. We talk to you a lot. We do a lot of one-on-one conversations, and we look at the data. And part of that data is your HTMA. And then from there, we create a customized nutrient formula specific for you and what your data is telling us. And then you have things in that formula that you need and nothing you don't. So if you go and get a multi off the shelf, it could have a lot of things that you do not need, your body does not want. Also, you're not going to get therapeutic dosages. So there's no point. Like if you're going and taking 20 milligrams of magnesium when really you need 600, what a waste of money, right? So we give you therapeutic loading doses in these custom nutrients. So you'll never go wrong. Your money will never be wasted when you look at your nutrients. Why can't you look at nutrients, though, on a blood test? Okay, so let's get into that. So the reason why we don't rely on blood work, like I like to see blood work, sodium, potassium, etc. I like to have it, and I'll talk about blood work in a minute, but we cannot rely on it for your minerals, because blood is very tightly regulated. If your blood mineral levels go out of whack too much, your pH will change too much, and you are at risk of a very, very serious and urgent medical attention, right? So that blood is going to remain very homeostatic, and it's going to push and pull minerals in and out of the blood as the blood needs it to maintain that pH level. So we want to see a more true, accurate reflection of long-term mineral status in tissue. And that's the HTMA. Hair is tissue, and the body is going to push minerals into tissue and pull minerals out of tissue as it needs to maintain the blood homeostasis. So it's a very serious condition if your blood minerals are not looking good. So, it's not very helpful. We've got to see what's going on at a cellular tissue level, and that is the hair. And it's long-term data. Blood is very short-term data. So that's why we don't rely on bloods. It's not very helpful, okay? And hair is also a really good way to look at your heavy metals as well. So I hope by now you understand that yes, you, I don't care how old you are. I don't care what you're struggling with. I don't care how many symptoms you have or do not have. You do well doing an HTMA, because balancing your minerals and your nutrients and optimizing, and by the way, minerals, you can't just take one, you'll knock out another one. They're like a seesaw, right? You got too much of one, the other one's going to get knocked out. You must balance them in the right ratios. And this is where a really good practitioner who understands minerals and who has looked at hundreds and hundreds of HTMA tests is going to be able to help you. If you're working with somebody who doesn't know this stuff, they're going to interpret it incorrectly. For example, if you have high magnesium on an HTMA, you are leaking magnesium from your body, and you need magnesium with all its cofactor friends to hold its hand and guide it to where it needs to go. But if you're not a trained practitioner, you will look at that and falsely assume you don't need magnesium, when that couldn't be further from the truth. And there are many other examples I could give you. So work with somebody like myself and my team practitioner who really know what we're doing when it comes to HTMA testing. Okay, so you do well to do an HTMA test at least once a year. Keep track of your nutrients for optimal health, for prevention. Don't wait till things pop up. If you've already got symptoms, you need the test. If you don't have many symptoms or any, you need the test, because you want to do what you can to prevent. It's important to eat a healthy diet and to lift weights, right? Exercise correctly, reduce our stress, remove the toxins from our environment, make sure you've got electrolytes, etc. That's great for prevention and supporting your health. But in this day and age, especially when we're constantly assaulted by stress and toxins, etc., and our nutrient supply in our food is much, much lower, it's also imperative to run testing for prevention. So even if you don't have symptoms, you need to run these tests, in my opinion, once a year at least. So that's the HTMA. That's why nutrients are everything to every part of your body. No matter what your symptoms are, you need to look at them. You will never waste your money. You will always find something to work on, and it will always be helpful. Same goes for your gut, right? Same rules apply. I mean, there is a gut axis to your lungs, to your skin, to your heart, to your brain, to your bone, to it goes, there's even a gut axis, meaning the gut influences every aspect of your body. Have you got an autoimmune disease? Have you got migraines? Have you got headaches? Have you got skin issues? Have you got fatigue? That's huge with gut problems. Fatigue is massive. I could go into the reasons why, but I'm trying to keep this a little bit shorter. But, liver issues, non-alcoholic fatty liver, look to the gut, like hormonal stuff, any kind of hormonal stuff, PMS, like every single symptom, you can relate that to the gut, but the same rules apply. You do not want to wait for symptoms necessarily to run a gut test. You should be running stool tests every single year, especially as we age, because we're aging. Things are aging in the body. And so now more than ever before, preventative labs are imperative. Absolutely imperative. So my opinion is, even if you don't have many symptoms, don't wait till you get them. Run a stool test every year, run an HTMA every year, and run blood work every year, which we'll get to. There will always be something to work on, and that is root cause level data, and it is absolutely invaluable. If you get your nutrients right and you get your gut right, and you're doing the other things that we teach our clients in terms of diet and lifestyle, chances are you're going to feel so much better. You're going to eliminate most of your symptoms, and you've certainly done everything in your power to support your body moving forward into the later decades of life to reduce your risk of disease states. So gut health, everything, absolutely everything. Even if you're like worried about how you're detoxifying your estrogen, it comes back to the gut, because the gut impacts the liver. What happens in the gut goes to the liver to get detoxified. So, and then inflammation, right? So inflammation is another thing, like the receptor health. If you have lots of inflammation, your hormones aren't going to be able to communicate very well. And inflammation is the underpinning of all disease states. And if you have high inflammation, you're going to drive up your metabolic markers on your blood, and you're going to end up with metabolic dysfunction, which is the underpinning of things like osteoporosis and, cancer and type 2 diabetes, et cetera, et cetera. So even your eye health, right? Think about your eyes. Think about your grandparents or your parents, depending, and think about how many that you know who have eye problems, all right? I know in my family, plenty have eye problems. That to me is very, very scary. So you want to look, nutrients for the eyes, blue blockers as well. And blue blockers are imperative. So in the show notes, I'll put a link to the blue blockers that I recommend, okay? But yeah, gut health. Gut health is huge for your eyes because of how it impacts your metabolic health and your inflammation and your ability to absorb your nutrients that you're putting into your body because you run your HTMA. See how the two complement each other? The third thing, so you'll never go wrong. You'll never waste your money. You'll never have a perfect stool test, especially when we age and our gut atrophies. And as our sex hormones decline, our gut health also declines. And this is another reason why replacing hormones is important, but you can see it's multifaceted, right? We work on the HRT, we work on the gut health, we work on the receptor health, the heavy metals, the nutrients, the diet, the lifestyle. Again, this is functional medicine. And that's why focusing on one of these things doesn't work. You got to focus on it all. And that's what we help our clients with. We coach our clients on all of this stuff. We guide them through all this stuff. Okay, so stool testing, you're going to do it once a year. HTMA testing, you're going to do it once a year. Blood testing, do this once a year as well. I am actually going to do an episode on blood work, and I'm going to go into it a little bit. I'm not going to, my clients are the ones that get all the functional optimal ranges from us. They get the full blood work table. We go into depth about what bloods mean when they're high, when they're low, etc. But I'm going to do a blood work podcast just to touch on some of the most important markers, the ones that you want to get done every single year. And you really need to stay abreast. And please, for the love of God, don't give all this thinking up to your doctor, because there's nobody who's going to care more about your health than you. You need to become familiar with this stuff. You don't need to know all the stuff I know, but you need to know the basics, right? And blood can tell us so much about your metabolic health, your inflammation, your thyroid health, even if you're dehydrated, your nutrient status, right? We can look at indirect markers for B vitamins, multitude of different things, your liver health, etc. So you do want to be getting a full blood panel done every single year, and you want to look for trends. This is what we do with our clients, and we can do it for you if you're interested. The best thing to do is to head to the show notes and book a 30-minute consultation with me. We can chat then about what I have on offer at the moment, right? What packages might be open? Is the perimenopause solution open? Because you may not be listening to this in real time. So that's probably the best thing to do. But I hope that that's helpful. I should really say that here are the testing, not to waste your money on in midlife. When I talk about midlife, it's really about 35. We're seeing women going to perimenopause earlier and earlier, but about 35 to about 55. Hormone tests, go for your life and run them in blood if you want to, because it's either free or very cheap. Sure, go for it and start to build trends, because one marker for estrogen or progesterone in particular, those two in particular, is not helpful. And any practitioner who looks at one marker of estrogen or progesterone and says, you have high progesterone, high estrogen, low, whatever, in perimenopause, in this 35 to 55 age group, whether they say it's high or low progesterone or estrogen, based on one marker, they don't know what they're talking about, because hormones fluctuate. You cannot take a hormone marker as gospel in this period of life. And if your practitioner is, they are doing you a great disservice. You could start to look for trends. And if you consistently see a trend, that's interesting. Still not gospel. Your symptoms are going to dictate. And it is perfectly fine, perfectly safe, completely safe to go by symptoms. So many people think it's not safe. It is safer, because if you're running hormone tests and you're relying on a number on a piece of paper, that is when it gets unsafe. Because what if your progesterone or your estrogen swung really high one month or one day, and then it crashed out the next, but you didn't catch the crash, or you caught the crash but not the high, or whatever? It could be very dangerous to go by that one number on a piece of paper. You are not a number on a piece of paper. There is no safety concerns for utilizing HRT, for example, in perimenopause, in midlife, when you have a plethora of symptoms that dictate you need it, but you haven't got a hormone test. There's no safety concerns there. It is not cause for concern, trust me. And the amount of hormone that you bring on board exogenously from the HRT isn't even going to come close to the amount of hormones your body used to make for you. So there's no safety concerns by not running a hormone test. Like I said, run all the blood work you like, but be very careful, because a lot of women will run a blood test and they will get fixated on one number, and they will think that that is their picture. It has to be looked at in the context of them as a human being and the symptoms that they have. Do not run a Dutch hormone test. I have spoken out about this so much. I feel like a broken record, but I have talked about it on my Instagram. I have talked about it on my podcast. In fact, I will link to Dutch test episodes in the show notes for this one, so you can go and listen to all of that. I really go into detail about why it's such a waste of money in perimenopause, in my opinion. If you want to spend the money, go for it. If you don't have the money to spend, do not go for it. Do the stool test and the HTMA test. And again, I go into it in the episode. So if you're sitting there going, yeah, but what about my metabolism? That's really important to see. I break down for you why it's not that important to see in these episodes. Okay. So I might just save you $2, $3, $4, $5 plus $100, depending on where in the world you're getting your Dutch hormone test from. So same for saliva, same for urine, same for saliva, and obviously Dutch is the urine. Blood, again, can be cheap, free, run it if you want, but be very careful of not getting hung up on a snapshot in time marker with your bloods. So that's one test not to run. The other test I don't like is the organic acids. I think that some of their markers are questionable, and it just points you down the road of another test you got to get, which is usually a stool test. So you just do the stool test. You'll always find something to work on there. I don't love organic acids. And the other one is food sensitivity testing. Not a fan. Don't run it. Can if you want it. I can run any test for you, but no, it's the gut is the issue, not the food. right? If you are reacting to foods when you work with us, we can understand why. We know why. We're experts at what we do. This is what we do. We can tell you why you're reacting to a certain kind of food typically, but optimizing the microbiome, getting that microbiome sorted, and you can only do that with a stool test and working with a microbiome expert such as myself and my team practitioner. That's how you're going to be able to start to incorporate those foods later on. Even dairy, if you are lactose intolerant and it's not genetic, you can actually get on top of that when you optimize your gut health. So don't waste your money. Food sensitivity testing, saliva hormone tests, Dutch tests, organic acid tests. I don't believe they are the first point of call. Go for the HTMA, the blood work, and the stool tests. You will never, ever, ever regret spending your money there. You will always find something to work on. All right, if you want to work with me, like I said, head to the show notes, book in a consultation. We can chat. I could just give you a second opinion across your case. I could look at some of the testing that you've done. I'll even look at your Dutch test if you want me to, because I've seen hundreds of them. I'll look at your testing. I'll give you a second opinion and I'll point you in the right direction. I'll let you know if I've got anything available at the moment, a program, if the perimenopause solution is open or not, or smaller packages. We can chat about it all. So that's the best way to go about this. I hope that was helpful and we will speak again soon. Bye for now.
I am not a medical professional, and the information provided in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. I do not have access to your individual medical history or circumstances, so the content discussed here should not be considered as medical advice. Before making any changes to your diet, lifestyle, or considering the use of supplements, please consult with a qualified healthcare professional or your doctor to ensure it's safe and appropriate for your specific situation. Any decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are at your own discretion and risk. Thank you for tuning in.